Back in the 1940s, Chicago, Illinois, rhythm and blues music was very popular. Rhythm and blues music started in Atlanta, Georgia, but it migrated to other places, such as New York City, Chicago, California, etc. Rhythm and blues music was created by African Americans who all came together to create a type of music that's a mixture of gospel, spiritual, and blues. Muddy Waters, Jimmy Reed, Little Walter, etc. are all rhythm and blues singers who are not only sung rhythm and blues music, but have helped create it. Rhythm and blues singers wanted a chance to express their emotions through music. African Americans wanted to show everyone that they're not worthless and that they can do more than what people in slavery days. Rhythm and blues singers in Chicago, Illinois stood up for what they believed in, such as not segregating people. They also believed that African Americans can do as much as Caucasians, such as work in a facility where they get paid and is treated equally. Many African Americans feel as if expressing your feelings through music is important because how you feel is released through songs. Rhythm and blues singers love singing for people as an expression to show love and equality and how it is different from being segregated. Equality is where all races are treated the same. Rhythm and blues music happened because the singers wanted to feel freedom. They didn't like feeling sad, so they turned the sadness into happiness and mixed it into their music. Rhythm and blues singers were now inspired by the 1940s version of rhythm and blues singers because it tells their background through its music. To be more specific, back when rhythm and blues music first started, it was a way African Americans expressed their feelings knowing people were still racist towards them. As Kelly Price, a famous rhythm and blues singer, states, it's a genre that just embodies so much. You have the blues in there, you have the gospels in there, you have the spirituals in there. It's a little bit of everything. Kelly Price wasn't born back when rhythm and blues started, but she's an example of listeners being inspired by this genre of music. Some African Americans were still being disrespected by people, but other African Americans gained respect just for being the inventors of rhythm and blues music. Even though the African Americans were faced with racism, segregation, and bad treatment, they have always found a way to put their piece in their music. I've seen black musicians when they be jamming at a session with white musicians, a whole lot of difference. The white musicians can jam if he's got some sheet music in front of him. But that black musician, he picks up his horn and he starts blowing some sounds that he never heard of before. He improves. He creates. Juror 78. Those are real-life examples of short-term effects of rhythm and blues music and how it evolved over time. Rhythm and blues music created an active integration between when it came to African Americans and Caucasians playing music together. Even though discrimination still happened, African Americans and Caucasian musicians didn't see it as if it was discrimination. They were considered equal when it came to rhythm and blues music. Means 22. One thing I'm happy to see is the integration that's happening among musicians. In past and even generation music now, rhythm and blues music gives everyone a sense of identity, meaning it allows them to be the person that they are today. Those as well were real-life examples of long-term effects of rhythm and blues music and how it is still changing the music business now. The Harlem Renaissance and the Great Migration both played a huge role in the rhythm and blues music. The Harlem Renaissance was a time period where African Americans came together to help express their feelings through those arts, such as dancing, singing, drawing, etc. The Great Migration is when artists traveled to Chicago and New York City because they felt disrespected. They didn't feel equal to the other races. Both of these events led to the creation of rhythm and blues music. The Harlem Renaissance gave singers a chance to let people hear their thoughts on the real world. Many African Americans felt proud of themselves for having freedom and getting to let people know about their experiences. The Great Migration and the Harlem Renaissance gave many African Americans pride and love in themselves and in others. Slavery played a depressing part in the African American lives. When slavery was over, people noticed that racism was still taking place. Rhythm and blues music is about freedom and equality. It's how African Americans were feeling bad and disrespected by Caucasians. Caucasians didn't like how the African American people worked, so they would beat them and harm their lives. So that is the reason why African Americans and rhythm and blues music are connected and why it means so much to African Americans.
You know the nighttime is the right time to be with the one you love now. And now, oh baby, and now come on baby, I wanna be the one you love now. You know what I'm thinking of. I know the nighttime, oh, it's the right time.
If you're one of the 55 million Americans who drive a personal car for